strong comments with Sophie Cunningham. We've been hearing everyone else take on her comments about trans players.
And I know you gifted your Adidas shoes to that fan, which I know is something that you probably do quite a bit, but it happened to be captured.
Who are outside the court. That probably went over a lot of y'all head.
What is your, and you want to keep leading the main thing, what has been your approach? Like, how have you seen this team kind of grapple?
It is what it is, and, I'm here. I'm fine.
Caitlin's game this season, and just speaks specifically in the men's question, but what was your conversation with Shara like before that last game?
Oh, yeah, she just came up, and, I respect her for coming up in person. I think
the setup here is accurate context. This was Sophie Cunningham's first extended media availability since her comments on trans athletes in women's sports drew weeks of national attention, and it came the same day news broke about a specific potential case involving a transgender athlete in the WNBA. That's real relevant background for understanding why reporters' questions were framed the way they were.
One person we have not heard from since making her strong comments was Sophie Cunningham. We've been hearing everyone else take on her comments about trans players being able to play in the WNBA, or even trans men being able to play in women's sports. Now, news broke late last night about a potential trans male playing in the WNBA. Now, today, Indiana Fever reporters caught up with Sophie Cunningham. She had a lot to say today. We finna react to it. And yeah, man, I told y'all last year that
her answer about gifting shoes to a young fan, framing it as inspiring kids generally to be confident and do whatever they want, not specifically to become WNBA players, is a genuine, on-record quote, and it's a nice, low-stakes moment worth including on its own terms before the interview shifts into heavier territory.
I believe the Indiana Fever don't like the bad pub that Sophie give them.
And I know you gifted your Adidas shoes to that fan, which I know is something that you probably do quite a bit, but it happened to be captured on video there. So what was that moment like?
I think that's what it's all about, is giving back to the next generation and inspiring them to, do great things and be confident and be themselves. And I know it's just a pair of shoes, and I'm not saying inspiring them to be a next WNBA player, but just giving those confidence, that confidence to those little girls to, and boys to, go out there and do whatever they want.
Her actual critique of WNBA media coverage, arguing there's so much good basketball being played that covering everything except basketball undersells the sport, is a real, substantive opinion worth engaging with directly. Whatever you think about the specific context it came up in, that's a legitimate, common frustration among athletes across many sports, not something unique to her.
Way to keep it basketball related, guys. Awkward.
Well, I guess I'll ask. You want to keep it basketball related. Do you have anything that you want to say on your approach to that and why you want to focus on that moving forward?
Yeah, I think that there's so much good going on in the WNBA. I think that basketball is being played at the highest level it's ever been. I think our team in specific, we are breaking history right now with the amount of points that we're scoring on back-to-back games. I think the Minnesota game, there's just so much distraction. I think the WNBA media, all we ever do is cover everything except basketball. And it's what are we doing? There's so much. You can talk about other things. I think those are great stories. I think
the hosts read that this comment was a dig at Stephanie White and many other people in the WNBA, is presented clearly as personal opinion here, and it's worth treating it exactly that way. Cunningham never named White or anyone specific, and reading a targeted subtext into a general media critique is an interpretation, not something she confirmed.
It shows the fans who people are outside the court. That probably went over a lot of y'all head. Sophie Cunningham, to me, it's my own personal opinion, it sounds like she's taking a dig at Stephanie White and many other people in the WNBA.
Miles and Kelsey was phenomenal. Our team, that game.
Her point about having multiple legitimate MVP caliber players on one roster and wanting attention to reflect that level of play is a real, specific basketball argument, genuinely worth taking at face value as team pride rather than assuming it's coded criticism of anyone in particular.
in particular was a great game. And so I think that there's a lot to be said, and I'm going to let people just do the speaking for themselves. But for me, I want to get back to basketball. It's always been about basketball. That interview happened in February when I was asked a question. And so for me, I just want to, make sure that it stays, the focus stays where it should, because people are playing at such a high level. We have probably like 3 MVPs that could be MVPs on our team specifically. And so that's why I want to do that.
The background she gives about her early years in the league, playing alongside Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner, and learning to protect the locker room from outside noise even then, is real, credible context for why she frames media scrutiny the way she does. That's a legitimate, lived perspective on handling a high-profile team environment, not something invented for this interview.
Thank you for elaborating.
Yeah.
You talk about all the distractions.
Yeah.
What is your, and you want to keep the main thing, what has been your approach? Like, how have you seen this team kind of grapple with that, where you are playing some of the best basketball that you played all season, playing at such a high level?
Yeah.
And everybody wants to penetrate that bubble. So how do you focus on keeping it tight?
Yeah, I think that's how it's always been in the W. My first 6 years, I was with DT and Brittany Griner, and so that causes a lot of buzz on your team as well, and so you just had to protect the locker room. And then when you come here, it was like 100 times more.
Her description of everything being magnified by 10,000 on this specific roster, with every road game feeling like their Super Bowl for the opposing crowd, is a vivid, honest account of what it's actually like playing alongside Caitlin Clark right now. Genuine insight into a real, unusual level of attention most 1BA rosters have never dealt with.
And so last year, I think we had a lot of preparation for, what distraction and outside voices could do to a locker room. And so this year, I think we're used to it. We're tight in the locker room. We try to protect those walls like no other. We try to protect each other like no other. And so I just think that when you have this platform and everything you do is just magnified by 10,000, you kind of get used to it. And so this team, everywhere we go, every team we play, it's their Super Bowl. So it's nothing new for us. And when you join this team, it's just something that you have to expect and you have to know going forward, like all eyes are on you 24/7.
You talked about doing the interview back in February. Is this kind of reaction something you expected?
Her clarification that her original February comments were simply an honest answer to a direct question, not a planned statement, is worth hearing in her own words. "I wasn't making a statement to make a statement," is a real, specific claim about her own intent, whatever you think of the underlying position itself.
Or the distraction something you expected?
No, I was asked a question, and that's simply what it was. I just wasn't making a statement to make a statement. And so I was trying to clear the air, and I did that back in February. And so it is what it is. And like I said, we're in the middle of season. I'm going to keep it that. We talk about a bunch of distraction. Our team is good. My teammates are good. Our locker room is great. And so now we're just here about to prepare for Las Vegas, and that's where our mind is at.
Not that hearing news would be new for any player, but is that from a basketball perspective? Is that something that crosses your mind at all hearing?
Her basketball analysis of Caitlin Clark's game, crediting her improved mid-range shooting and the team's overall ball movement as the key to their best stretches, is genuine, detailed basketball insight, the kind of specific team-first analysis that's easy to overlook amid everything else in this interview.
And complain about environments, like I love that, like that's what sports is. And so it is what it is, and I'm here, I'm fine.
Caitlin's game this season, and just specifically in the mid-range, what have you seen from her and just her development, health aside?
Yeah, I think she's just starting to get in rhythm. I think our team overall is starting to get in rhythm and feeding off each other pretty well, especially when we share the ball. When we have like 5 to 6 people in double figures, we win. And it's when the ball stops moving. And so for her in particularly, when she's moving that ball and getting her assist, I think that's when we're at our best. She's always going to get hers. Kelsey is always going to get hers. AB is always going to get hers.
Her own stat line, career-high shooting percentages and second in the league in bench scoring, is real, verifiable, and worth crediting directly. That's a legitimately strong statistical season for a bench player, regardless of anything else going on around her this year.
As far as your game goes,
Yeah.
right now, career highs in shooting percentages, second in the league in scoring off the bench. So
Yeah.
how have you, coming off of injury too, how have you been able to elevate your game?
Yeah, I think I felt really good last year before injury. And then, this offseason, I was really just trying to rehab and still trying to, perfect my shot. And as a shooter, like there's always room to grow. And I think that's what's so awesome about all sport and really just life in general. There's always growth, right? And so I think for me, it's just making sure that I'm able to move and shoot the ball off the move.
Her account of the pregame conversation with Cheryl Reeve, respecting that Reeve came in person rather than hiding behind screens, and describing the exchange as ending with love and respect, is a genuinely gracious, specific description worth taking at face value as a real, human interaction between two people who disagree on something significant.
Talking to another coach, might count as a basketball question, but what was your conversation with Cheryl like before that last game?
Oh, yeah, she just came up, and, I respect her for coming up in person. I think a lot of people hide behind screens and love that type of thing. She had stories about her point of view, and I had stories about my point of view, and we left with love and respect, and I think that's what it's all about.
The closing speculation that this interview was front office damage control and that Cunningham won't be re-signed next season is entirely the host's own prediction, not sourced to anything confirmed. It's a bold claim worth flagging clearly as opinion rather than fact, especially since nothing in the interview itself supports either part of that theory directly.
So that was Sophie Cunningham setting the record straight about her conversation with Cheryl Reeve. But what stood out to me, Sophie Cunningham, to me, looked like she was orchestrated by the front office to do this interview and basically say, let's keep it basketball. And it could be a little damage control by the Indiana Fever front office. We know that they tend to do things like that. And that's what that interview was to me, is that, okay, it's been over a week. We're still talking about this. Y'all know how they be, man. They don't want no bad news surrounding the team. I can almost guarantee Sophie Cunningham's not going to be on the Fever next year. They not even going to offer her a contract. I bet money. They're not even going to offer Sophie a contract. Sophie's not going to be on the Fever next year. Till next time, guys, shake the haters off.